Tonight, decision looming. The Fort St. John veterinarian back in court tomorrow. Located. Dawson Creek RCMP find a teen missing since June the 8th. And wildfire wrap. A week of rain helps firefighters in Northeast BC. Good evening and thank you very much for joining us. We begin tonight as the Fort St. John veterinarian will soon learn whether he will have to register as a sex offender. In 2022, Justin Sewell pled guilty to 1 count of sexual assault and 2 counts of voyeurism. Judge David Sinkin sentencing Sewell to house arrest for 2 years less a day in connection to a 2007 sexual assault that took place in Charlie Lake. Now, as part of Sewell's sentence, he must provide a DNA sample. The judge didn't manage to rule whether he must register as a sex offender. Now, the matter is back in court Tuesday as the judge is expected to render a decision. The Crown is also appealing Sewell's sentence. On July the 14th, the appeal hearing will take place. Dawson Creek RCMP are thanking the public for their help in finding a missing teenager. On June the 8th, Mounties were notified that Todd Harvey went missing. The 17-year-old was last seen at a local retail store leaving the business with an older identified woman. Police said at the time that Harvey lives a high-risk lifestyle and there was concern for his well-being. Mounties saying he could have been avoiding police. Harvey was located safe and sound in Dawson Creek. The BC Wildfire Service is using a week-long break in the weather to work on wildfires across Northeast BC. In the South Peace region, the Kiskatinaw River wildfire is still being held. There's more rain in the forecast early this week, but that also comes with the risk of thunderstorms. Crews continue to work putting out hot spots of the Kiskatinaw fire. The fire is smoldering at this point. However, as things dry out and warm up later this week, the fire activity is also expected to pick up. The Fort St. John fire zone seen close to 100 millimeters of rain last week. That's not the case near Fort Nelson. There's rain in the forecast. The Summit Creek wildfire is still burning out of control. Steep terrain adding to the problems in fighting the fire. And we'll have more on the wildfire situation across Western Canada a bit later on in the newscast. Well, police are reminding parents to talk to their teens about predatory behavior online. Child exploitation offenses across Canada are rising. And with the summer break here, more time may be spent on their phones or playing video games. CTV's Yvonne Raymond has more on the timely messaging.
While students close their textbooks for summer break, cautionary reminders are out on the need to stay vigilant scrolling online.
A big reminder for children is to only speak to people you know and not to share any type of personal information with people you've never met and you can't validate their identity.
The newly formed Greater Victoria Integrated Child Exploitation Team has 70 local files on its desk this year.
We're dealing with a lot of child luring, a lot of possession and distribution of child pornography.
And the number of kids being tricked into seeing or taking part in online encounters of a sexual nature has been rising across Canada.
I'm surprised, it's growing and growing the number, but I think as a parents we can do many things differently from home and trying to protect them from these things.
When you have a smartphone in hand and you have apps like Snapchat, Instagram, what have you installed, that is a way for people on the outside to directly connect with your kids. And that is the source of a lot of the harm that we see that comes in through cybertip.ca.
Young people are encouraged to use privacy settings, turn off location services.
Doing reverse image search on a profile picture and you can see that, oh, this has been recycled many times, or this is a celebrity, and therefore a good red flag that this account is fake. But again, that's a lot of thinking, critical thinking to put on the backs of, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And that's precisely the reason why so much harm is happening, because that's basically what the line of defense is currently.
The centre responsible for Canada's national cybertip reporting line wants to see more technology-based regulations in the quest to keep kids safe. Yvonne Raymond, CTV News.
Well, BC's Premier continues to downplay the idea of a new northern pipeline from Alberta to northern BC, but David Eby is insisting it's not a point of friction. He's reiterated his promise that he's open to discussion even if a new route is unlikely.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like the media is gathering around and chanting "fight, fight, fight" between us and Alberta right now. There's no fight here. The concern that I have is a matter of priorities. You know, we have a taxpayer-funded pipeline, the TMX pipeline. It's owned by Canadians. It's not operating at capacity. There's 200,000 additional barrels of capacity in that pipeline. Let's start there.
EB has faced criticism from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith on the issue, who insists EB is the only one holding up the process. While Eastern Canada bakes under extreme heat, parts of BC and Alberta dealing with a very different forecast this past weekend. This video was taken in Elkford, BC, north of Sparwood on Saturday. That's where residents woke up to a blast of wintry weather. And in southern Alberta, Cass Mountain Resort saw some fresh powder on the mountain. Now, while summer snow is not uncommon for the resort, staff say it's a chilly reminder that winter's never too far away. There was also snow west of Calgary this weekend in the Bragg Creek area. Up to 30 centimeters of snow fell in parts of the province, and some areas of southern Alberta saw up to 200 millimeters of rain. As we continue to get more information into the fatal rock slide in Banff National Park, we now know one of the people who died in the slide was from the lower mainland of British Columbia. Lake Louise RCMP have confirmed one of the two people killed in the rock slide is a 33-year-old man from Surrey. The police have not yet provided a name, and they say no more information will be provided at this time. The RCMP had previously confirmed the other person killed was a 70-year-old woman from Calgary. Parks Canada has closed the area around the falls. And cooler temperatures and rain have also helped tame the wildfire situation in most areas across Alberta. But the province is saying fires in the northern region are expected to escalate in the next few days. 49 wildfires are burning across the province. 19 are considered to be out of control. Wildfires in the northern Slave Lake and high-level forest areas did not get that same moisture as many others did. Many of the fires burning across the province are big and burning underground. Moisture is enough to buy some time, but it's not enough to put them out. Wildfire officials are warning it's still early in the season with a lot of heat ahead.
Much for that moisture to evaporate. So it buys us time, but we're still going to see fire danger increase in the coming weeks, especially as the heat of the summer really settles in. That's just to be expected.
Now, the Alberta Wildfire Service adding that thunderstorms carry the potential to spark new fires, and many people will be heading into parks for the Canada Day holiday. The province of Alberta is warning everyone to be careful because often during a long weekend, there's a spike in human-caused fires. Now, some good news from Manitoba, where the province-wide state of emergency has been lifted. The danger from wildfires there has receded, so the emergency rules are no longer needed. But crews are remaining vigilant as 23 blazes continue to burn. 7 of them are out of control. 21,000 people were forced to evacuate by the wildfires, but about 9,000 have since been allowed to return home. More are expected to go home in the days ahead, particularly in and around the Flin Flon area. They're on track to return starting Wednesday after being forced to flee the fires weeks ago. Overseas, Iran has made good on its threat to attack the United States. It comes after the Trump administration dropped 30,000-pound bunker bombs on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities this weekend. The U.S. says it was expecting the so-called symbolic retaliation on U.S. military bases in Qatar. CTV's Joy Melvin has more from Washington.
Explosions boomed over the night sky, terrifying images of missiles seen over Doha and posted on social media. Iranian state TV said it fired missiles at the Al Adid U.S. military base that President Donald Trump visited just 1 month ago. Qatar says its air defenses managed to intercept Iranian missiles, and no casualties have been reported. The attack was announced on Iran state TV proportionate. Iran said to the attack by the U.S. it was bomb for bomb. This was retaliation, Iran says, for the U.S. bombing Saturday. Satellite imagery shows the damage to 3 nuclear facilities targeted by the U.S. President Donald Trump warned Iran this was a one-off and not to strike back, or else.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Iran reportedly gave Qatar advance notice of the attacks, temporarily closing its airspace, U.S. military bases, and major U.S. cities on high alert. The president meeting with his national security team and the Trump administration stressing,
we're not at war with Iran, we're at war with Iran's nuclear program.
But it comes as the president, sure to anger Iran, floated the idea of regime change.
Of course, Iran would like to escalate in response to the Israeli and the American attacks, but we will see exactly whether Iran is actually able to effectively respond. And I think this is what we're going to see over the next 48 hours.
Throughout all this, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has kept in touch with Iranian officials, the Trump administration still leaving the door open to some kind of diplomatic resolution. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
And the conflict in the Middle East was top of mind even as Canada's Prime Minister made new commitments with European leaders. Mark Carney was in Belgium today signing a new defense and security agreement. Jeremy Charon has the latest from Brussels.
A morning visit to a military cemetery kick-started Prime Minister Mark Carney's first full day in Belgium. A ceremony to honor hundreds of fallen Canadian soldiers buried here after the First and Second World War. Ahead of this Canada-EU summit, a meeting between Carney and European leaders focused on joint security and defense.
Very, very warm welcome to this EU-Canada summit.
We look forward to moving to an ever closer partnership with the European Union.
Here, Carney signed a new security and defense pact with European Union leaders aimed at diversifying its trade and defense industrial partnerships, billed as a first step towards more defense procurement from Europe and an eventual plan to get Canada into the Rearm Europe military program.
It will help us deliver on our new requirements for capabilities more rapidly and more effectively. It will help build our industries, secure our jurisdictions.
But Carney's European trip has been dominated already by the escalating war in the Middle East. The Prime Minister spoke with President Trump overnight and says de-escalation was a focus of their conversation.
Where the state of Iran has been a sponsor of terrorism, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and beyond. And where at least in our opinion, Canada has listed the Iranian Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization, active terrorist organization. These are violations of international law.
Carney travels to The Hague in the morning for a highly anticipated NATO meeting where it's expected the conflict in the Middle East will dominate too. NATO's Secretary General was pressed on it today.
That is why NATO has said Iran should not, and this is a consistent position of NATO, Iran should not have its hands on a nuclear weapon. So, and I would not agree that this is against international law, what the US did.
The Hague summit will also see the alliance look at a new baseline spending target of 5% of GDP. Canada only this month committed to meeting the current 2% target this fiscal year, a decade after the alliance agreed to it. Jeremy Charon, CTV News, Brussels.
Today marks the 40th anniversary of Canada's worst terrorist attack. The bombing of an Air India flight killing all 329 people on board. Most of the victims were Canadian. On June the 23rd, 1985, Air India Flight 182 took off from Toronto en route to Mumbai, India. A bomb planted by Sikh separatists exploded on board over the Atlantic Ocean just off the coast of Ireland. The bombing remains the largest mass murder in Canadian history. Of the 329 victims, 286 were Canadian. 1/3 were children. Events being held across the country today to remember the victims. Well, a billionaire mall owner in British Columbia has been given the approval to take over leases for 3 Hudsons Bay properties. An Ontario Superior Court judge granted Ruby Liu permission to take over 3 Bay locations at BC malls that she owns. She's paying $6 million for the set of the 3 leases. Liu wants to use the properties to open a chain of modernized department stores that she'll name after herself. And that's just the start. The Bay has reached a deal with her for 25 more leases belonging to it and its sister Saks Company. Automobile giant Ford is recalling about 32,000 of their Mach-E electric vehicles in Canada over the risk of potentially trapping passengers inside. The model in the recall are the Mustang Mach-E midsize SUVs, the years 2021 to 2025. The reason? A low battery charge could cause the vehicle's electronic door latches to remain locked once the driver or front passenger exits the vehicle and shuts their door. It could lead to backseat passengers unable to unlock their doors and being trapped inside. Ford says there's no reports of any injuries related to the issue, but a software update is in the works. All right, please do stay tuned. I'll be right back after the break with weather.